Nigel Farage says jump, and the Prime Minister of this country, Rishi Sunak, says, how high? Before I begin explaining my position on this, I want to state the absolute obvious. Alison Rose, NatWest's CEO, was wrong to brief a reporter. And yes, I do think that very often banks obfuscate when it comes to customer relations, and they should be as transparent as possible, and that does need to be looked at straight away. But as I sat back and watched the Nigel Farage row over whether he could or could not have a bank account with the people that we know were certainly the Queen's bankers and probably now the King's bankers, what I thought the most egregious part of the whole silly thing is this. The reaction by the current iteration of the Tory party. I would say it could be summed up like this. Nigel Farage says jump, and the Prime Minister of this country, Rishi Sunak, says, how high? Having read the so-called Coutts dossier, that bank was not attempting to shut down Nigel Farage's free speech. They were making a business decision. That decision was that Nigel Farage presented to them a reputational risk. That has proved to be true. In my view, this sorry saga has been spun by Nigel Farage, disproportionately covered over the last 10 days by the right-wing press of this country, and amplified by unjustified political interference. Rishi Sunak forever bangs on, doesn't he, about due process, which was his justification for standing by his own MPs engulfed in scandal. He refused point blank to sack Nadeem Zahawi, Lee Anderson, or, of course, Boris Johnson. He said that he needed to wait for due process to be done, for an independent investigation in these cases. There was no way, he said, he could comment on any of that stuff involving his own MPs. Right now, there are two regulatory bodies looking into what happened at Coutts, plus an independent inquiry set up by Coutts itself. But instead of waiting for due process, Rishi Sunak and Jeremy Hunt, no doubt on Rishi Sunak's orders, applied direct pressure, it has been reported, to an independent bank to ensure that its two chief executives from that organisation, Sir Alison Rose, chief exec of NatWest, and the chief exec of Coutts, Peter Flavell, the Prime Minister of this country applied pressure to make sure that they were sacked. Sunak is now refusing to back the NatWest chairman, Howard Davis, essentially because Nigel Farage, a TV presenter and former MEP, now wants him sacked. Howard Davis has said that the reason Alison Rose and Peter Flavell had to go was because of the political pressure that was applied to NatWest and Coutts. Sunak could have interfered with the running of P&O ferries when they sacked 800 staff, but he didn't. Sunak could have interfered with the running of the post office, which is wholly owned by the state, when the post office got 900 of its own staff wrongly imprisoned. But our Prime Minister stayed, quiet. My question to you is this. Was Rishi Sunak, our Prime Minister, right to wade into the Nigel Farage row when there has been no independent inquiry into what happened over Nigel Farage's account? I think the answer to that question is this. He was wrong. He should have waited. I think there is something potentially sinister about Prime Ministers and Chancellors of the Exchequer because Jeremy Hunt was involved, applying pressure to independent companies. Because if this is where it begins, where the heck is it going to end?